Channel. No place on Earth has better weather.
September is really the peak of the tropical season, at least in the Atlantic. It's around September the 10th. But we have had one hurricane, a fairly potent hurricane. Erica did the old recurvature thing and out to sea, and that's been it for this month. August, there wasn't anything. Then, of course, we had 4 named systems back in July, including one hurricane, and that was Danny. But that's the only system that really directly affected the U.S. It has been a quiet season, and nobody's going to complain about that. But we're not quite out of the woods yet. And the flow out here in the Atlantic, not conducive for a lot of development, but there are a couple of areas we have to keep a very watchful eye on. 1, 2, 3. Those are the 3 areas. We'll take them one at a time. First of all, let's talk about this area in the Northwest Caribbean. There has been persistent showers and thunderstorms. They aren't sticking around in one general area, and actually what's going on here is there's an upper level low. See the spin right here? Kind of pinwheeling out here in the Bay of Campeche. That is slowly retrograding to the west-northwest, and out ahead of that, maybe a little bit of a ridge in the upper levels of the atmosphere is building here. High pressure aloft is conducive potentially for tropical development. You get that fanning out with a high pressure area, and that's what you need to get the moisture building up at the lower levels and then being evacuated aloft away from the center so the engine, the heat engine, can really get going. But this convection doesn't seem to be organizing. We don't see any real significant areas of low pressure. Some of the winds here along the coast at Cozumel or Cancun out of the north a bit, which might be an indication of a broad low-level low pressure area trying to develop, but nothing organized at this point, and it would take several days probably to get things going. This area between the Bahamas and Bermuda probably doesn't really bear too much watching, but because of the convection we'll keep an eye on it. But if anything did develop there, it'd be moving out into the Atlantic anyway. This area is very curious. This one just won't die. The upper level winds are fairly unfavorable for development, or have been. However, it looks like we're almost getting a bit of a ridge trying to poke its way up here. But notice that some of the clouds are still getting blown off a bit toward the northeast, and again, that's upper level wind shear. However, these thunderstorms are very persistent, and they're not going away. So if there were a bit of a high trying to build here, conditions might become a bit more favorable, but it might take another couple of days. If this continues to hold together, it's something we'll have to watch very closely. It's not really moving anywhere, it's almost stationary, but again, we'll watch it very closely. No indication of a low-level circulation at this point. And really nothing to talk about over here toward the African coast, and indeed we are very close, if not really climatologically, at the end of the so-called Cape Verde season. And again, just to reiterate, we've only had one Cape Verde type system, and that was Hurricane Erica. All right, as we head into the Pacific, things a little bit different here. It has been a very active year. We're all the way up to the end storm. I mean, we only got up to Erica. That's 5 named tropical systems in the Atlantic. We're all the way up to N here, Nora. And again, this one has the potential of becoming a rather major hurricane, which would mean a Category 3 or higher. Right now, a Category 2 with 105-mile-an-hour winds, nearly stationary, about 330 miles south of Manzanillo, Mexico, and that's fairly close to the coast. That's why there are coastal flood warnings up from Cabo Corrientes all the way down to Punta Maldonado. Again, with a hurricane that close, throwing a lot of very high swells right into the coast, and actually some of the moisture rotating around in some of the spiral bands may be bringing some rain along the coast, but that's not the main threat right now. It would be the higher surf. This eye, very ragged, it tries to close off at times and then kind of opens up again, so not real well organized yet, but we expect it to get better organized as it slowly starts to drift, we think, more off toward the northwest. The rest of the eastern Pacific pretty quiet. Believe it or not, what's left of the circulation of Linda is still out here, well off southern California, and some high-level clouds still getting pulled inland toward Point Conception. As we head out to the West Pacific, this is Tropical Storm now David. It has done the old recurvature thing and is going to miss the Japanese islands, at least as far as a direct hit is concerned, and move out